And I used to train all the new employees because naturally I liked it and wrote training manuals and I trained all the new employees. When the position became available, I'm like, cool, this is my position. Well, I interviewed, I was all confident, although the hiring manager and I weren't on the best terms, but I did not get the job. And I asked her afterwards why I did not get it. Another girl got it that I trained and that was hired about a year or so after me. And she said, well, she has a master's degree and you don't. And I'm like, okay, that was it for me. All of a sudden, the, what do you call it, the coin dropped or the lights went up and like, okay, I can go to school, I can get a degree too. So, and AT&T paid 100% of tuition, and back then it was not tax deductible, so it was all tax-free money. So AT&T paid for I finished my classes at the community college, then I went to the Monterey Institute, got my, and we had a program, it's kind of like A2B, it's basically B2M, bachelor's to master's. So, because it was more of a graduate school, I couldn't do everything at that school, but all the classes I took there were graduate classes and they applied toward my graduate degree as well. So it was kind of quicker than doing the whole 6 years, right? So I eventually got my MBA. I had an undergraduate degree in international relations and an MBA in international management. And then I wanted to be in a big city. So I quit AT&T and I moved to Los Angeles. And lived in a big city, what I always wanted. Worked in the music industry for a while. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. I was on the sales side, not the creative side. I didn't get to meet the people or whatever, you know, so wasn't a lot of money and was a small, unstable company. I got laid off. That was my first layoff in my life. And then I decided to move back to Silicon Valley because everything was booming here. Worked for a software company, started in sales, moved to management, senior management, became director of business development, and had a pretty good career there. Then the bubble burst in Silicon Valley, and most of the small tech companies got bought out or sold or closed. So my company was one of those that got bought out by another company, and they closed the California office. My husband was working there too, not my husband in Monterey. I got divorced from him, and then this is my second husband. So he was working for the same company, so we both were without jobs. He's got a job right away, but I was pregnant, so I stayed home. I had the baby, stayed home for a while, hated it. That was the worst time in my life. I worked at AT&T, I worked graveyard shift. I didn't sleep all night. I went to school, studied, went back home, slept a couple of hours, went to work, and back to school and all that. None of that was stressful, but staying at home with a baby for me was stressful. So, anyway, I went back to start a company with my husband. So we became entrepreneurs by force, kind of, because people weren't hiring and the jobs that were available weren't that great. I kind of liked the flexibility of not having to go to the office every day when you work for somebody. So we started a small technology company in Silicon Valley and worked for a few years together. But then realized we can't really run a company together. We better stop doing this because I want my way, he wants his way, and we're never going to agree. So we decided to save the company and the marriage. We're not going to work together. So that's when I started teaching, and that was about 8 years ago. So we saved our marriage, we saved the company, and I found a career that I love. I wish my college had these programs. A2B, transfer assistance. I was kind of like Lenore. I'm like, okay, I take this class because they told me to. And I might have had other options. I might have focused more in one area in marketing rather than another. Some of it was challenging because it was a small school and there were not a lot of options. Classes were only offered once a semester, only one section. But definitely take advantage of these opportunities, all the support services you have here. There's so much, you know, there's, any support service, they love hearing from students. They love helping you. We're here to help you, to make you successful. You're really the future of this country, of this area, right? We want you guys to be successful. We don't want anybody to fail. Nobody in this room should fail or should leave without even at least a certificate. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Candace Nance, Professor Candace Nance to you, even though she's not here. She came and joined us about 2 years ago, right, Paul? And as you can see, she's an aviator. She's a pilot. This woman just doesn't know when to stop. And when she joined Paul and I, she just inspired me personally. So Professor Nance has experience, as does Professor Yurtseven, with online teaching. They knew all the tech, they know all this stuff. And they got me excited about it. So I'm just gonna let you know that Professor Nance has also gone to a community college. As a matter of fact, she went to Ohlone College and transferred to, it says here, University of Cambridge. She actually studied abroad. That's why she teaches international business. Then she went on to San Jose State, got her Bachelor's of Science, that's a BS, even though it's in marketing. They make stuff up, just so you know. Then she went to Mountbatten and got an international business. So Mountbatten, I think, is in Switzerland? It's somewhere in Europe. And then she came back and went to the American International College. So one of the things that Candace did that I didn't do was she did it all in a row, right? And I know some of you are sitting here thinking, Lenore, I'm not doing it all in a row. I'm taking some years in between, and you know what? That's okay. That is okay. We do it how we do it, and we get the message when we get it. So now I'm going to introduce you to the two folks, the younger folks, sitting at the panel. As Professor Shelley said, both are our students, and both drove us crazy. They did. I can remember Tristan in my 121 class, my financial accounting class, and he sat all the way by the windows. So I faced this way, he sat all the way by the windows. And he was one of the first students to use a computer all the time. And I always wondered, what are you doing on the other side of that? Because he wasn't participating, and that drove me crazy. But then he'd come to my office and he'd ask me questions. So the one thing anecdote that I will tell you, and some of you have heard this, was that Tristan was in my class when I dropped the F-bomb. I do. Now, let me tell you a little bit about BB. She prefers to be called BB. And BB sat in my 131 class, and she sat right smack in the middle. And one of the things that she did that most students don't do is she was tutoring the student in front of her. The student in front of her had some issues, was having trouble with one of my classes. And she wasn't being paid, just out of the big-heartedness that she has, her generosity. She began tutoring the student in front of her. You know who she is, right? And that student passed. So not only did BB go on to get her BA or BS, this other student did too. So what do I think about when I think about BB? So many of you have one of those fancy calculators, right? It's got a little slide, it does scientific things and blah, blah, blah. BB was sitting in my class just before an exam, and she realized she could program it. Now, I must tell you, all students before and all students after, I have not had a student who could program their calculator. So bright she is. She was just playing with it. She's like, oh, look, I can program this. And I'm like, oh, look, you can't use this now. So with that, I'd like to introduce, Tristan, are you going first, or BB? Ladies first? Okay, tallest person first, Tristan.
Hey guys, my name is Tristan Shelton, and 3 years ago, I sat exactly where you sat. I came to Kenyatta in 2009. I was a lost and confused student. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I came from Carmont High School, for those of you who know where that is in Belmont. I had a 1200 and a 2400 on my SAT, and a 2.2 GPA. So I was living large on that. I went ahead, and during high school, I spent the entire time doing professional gaming. For those who know, and what MLG is, stands for Major League Gaming. So I was doing pro tournaments. When I came to Kenyatta, I kind of used that expression my dad said, champagne dreams on a beer budget. Because I know I wanted to do business, and I wanted to go to Cal, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. My first semester, I went ahead and Rochelle's class. Sat in that, realized, wow, this is a ridiculously hard class. And actually dropped it halfway, but ended up getting a 3.75 GPA my first semester. And realized that, wow, I could actually do this. This actually is possible for me to actually reach. Second semester, went ahead and joined Phi Theta Kappa per Lenore Cabrera's recommendation. And little did she know, on that computer while sitting out the window, I had my WebSmart account open and sometimes doing online homework for my math class, and also a few gaming websites open. So, not always. But I did. I really did enjoy Professor Cabrera's company. She taught me a lot about her life. And that was one of the things I really enjoyed about going to her office hours. And not only getting tutored from her, but hearing about her stories. So I joined Phi Theta Kappa second semester. Then, a year later, I was the VP of Finance. Followed by, after that, I was the president. I was co-president with this girl named Karina. And PTK was my first ever leadership position I ever had. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew PTK very, very well. And after being to a few international conventions and kind of getting the lay of the land, I realized, wow, I could actually do a lot of different things around here, and I could really cause us to get like some seriously great awards and results. And throughout the year, we did phenomenal. Our team was motivated. We had an amazing officer team. Rochelle was helping us out in every aspect. Karina was an amazing co-president, helped me out with many different things. She was truly someone that I could easily call for not just professional support, but also emotional support. She was a great friend. And when the International Convention came around in April of 2012, went ahead, we took fourth in the entire nation out of 1,300 chapters, something like that. So it was the best we've ever done. And honestly, at that point, I realized, wow, there's a lot of things I could possibly do with this. So that year before, I applied to Cal, I applied to UCLA, Santa Clara, all kinds of big universities. And I knew at that point I kind of wanted to go into a finance degree because I was a VP of Finance as well at ASCC. And I realized that, going into Cal, I actually got into Cal and I got to the Haas School of Business. It's a very, very prestigious business school. And as people at Cal will say, people kind of look down on business school. We're known as Haas-holes quite frequently. And it's because we're very competitive.